Hi, in this private lesson we're going to talk about a lot of different aspects of playing the drum set, different styles of playing the drum set. For instance, different types of rock, different types of Latin, playing different styles in swing, playing with brushes, double bass, playing a drum solo, for instance, an open drum solo without music, and how to play over a vamp with music or tape. And we'll talk about the most important aspect, I feel, about playing drums, is just keeping good time and playing with a real good groove and a lot of conviction. I think it's real important first to mention that whenever you go to a clinic or you go and study from a private instructor or watch an instructional video like this, you have to keep in mind that it's just that teacher or performer's views on the way that they do things. Today I'm just going to give you my views on the way that I play, and they're not necessarily the only right way or the only wrong way, but it's just the way that seems to work for me. A lot of great drummers play with traditional grip. A lot of great drummers play with matched grip. The same goes for playing on your toes or on your heels with the bass drum technique. A lot of these ways, all these ways will work. You know, it's just a matter of what works best for you and what your private teacher starts you out on. One thing I'd like to say also is that the way that I started playing music was I took lessons privately, but I also worked a lot playing with records and trying to emulate off records my favorite drummers in all styles, in jazz and in rock and roll, Latin, big band, you know, all sorts of different styles of music. And I think that's one of the best ways to really learn, is just to try to steal ideas from other people. And I forget who it was that said that good composers borrow and great composers steal. But I think that really holds true. No matter what you take from another drummer, an idea or, you know, just a certain lick or a way that they play, it's never going to come out sounding just the way that they did it. It's always going to have your own inflection, and that'll come out in the way that your personality is, and, you know, your soul, the way you play, the spirit in which you play. So I feel as though that's a good kind of overall rule, is to stylistically try to develop yourself as much as you can. It's a real goal of mine. I'm constantly trying to listen to different styles of music and learn from drummers, you know, all sorts of different styles of drummers. So I'd just like to say that that's my point of view on the way that I approach playing, and now I'm going to play sort of an open solo for you. talk just a little bit about trying to develop a groove and practice, especially for beginners, working on time and working on ways to get your time a little bit more steady. I feel as though there's a lot of different ways to practice time, but the best way for me is to record what I'm doing so that I can really get a good handle on the grooves that I'm trying to play. And if I play a groove for maybe 3 minutes, hold down a tempo, maybe with a drum machine. I'll play with a drum machine or a click track, and I'll hold that tempo for, say, 3 minutes, and then I'll listen back to a tape recorder and tell, just balance things and ideas like that. If I'm rim shotting every time, I think it's important to play rim shots for rock, and that's what I usually play is rim shots. Although for different styles, you would, for swing, a lot of times you'd play in the middle of the snare drum. It's important to try to listen also to your playing without a drum machine or a metronome, because it's real easy when you're playing with the metronome to follow that metronome and to be a slave to it. I think it's important to take the click track and the drum machine off and just play a groove. Again, maybe just the length of a song, 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes, and then spend the same amount of time that you spent playing that groove and listen back to what you just played so that you can have a real good, solid idea of what you're doing as far as if you're speeding up or if you have tendency to slow down. You don't have to get in there and be a rocket scientist on the third bar of the 16th, at the end of 4, I seem to push it, and this was that. But just realize general tendencies. When you go to the bell of a cymbal, if you tend to push, or the china cymbal, if it's rushing when the intensity gets up, or if this fill or that fill seems on top of the beat or behind the beat, try to realize these tendencies, and in listening back to yourself, that's a great way to do it. I feel that that's one reason that so many guys that work in the recording industry can better their time, and that's why they're one of the reasons why they have such great groove is that not only they're born with it and they've got great time anyway, but they can go into the studio and play a groove and then immediately afterwards go into the control room and listen to the playback and be able to be their own critic on, gee, was that where I want to place it? And they might do this every day. I think in your practice time you can try to emulate the great recording drummers, the great recording artists, and try to go in and capture that same type of an approach by listening back to your playing as soon as you play it. The next thing I'd like to get into talking about is grip. And again, like I said, traditional grip or matched grip, either way, like I said, a lot of great players play both ways. Most of the time I play matched grip, except when I'm playing swing, and then just as kind of a feel thing, I switch to traditional grip, kind of a looser thing that works for me. But anyway, as far as matched grip goes, this is the way that I go about holding sticks, and this is the first line on the index finger. That's where I let the stick balance. Then the thumb would go right over that first line of the index finger and create the fulcrum. And this fulcrum is really where I grip the stick. And this is what enables me to get a double stroke roll and get the bounce. Technically, you wouldn't want to play with your fingers out, but just for a second, I'm going to demonstrate how you could play a double stroke roll with just the fulcrum and not even get the fingers involved at all. Now the fingers are very important for when you're playing singles. The stick gets pulled into the palm of the hand by the fingers. Okay? And this works in playing single stroke rolls like this. I'm still keeping the fulcrum here, but the fingers pulling the stick into the palm. And the third part of the grip would be the wrist. The wrist has to move in order to get the full stroke. And a lot of people will say, well, avoid playing with the arms. I feel as though playing with the arms, especially if you're playing rock and roll and you're playing hard, you have to use arms, but not to the point of playing, stiff like that. Playing as flowingly as you can and letting the wrists move and snap the wrist and use the fingers and really keep that fulcrum in place. And I always like to keep about 1 inch at the bottom of the stick, just as far as a balance point. Sometimes I'll find myself getting to the end of the stick and I'll look down and see, correct myself, that sort of thing. but I'd like to keep about 1 inch at the bottom of the stick, keep the fulcrum tight, fingers working, and also the wrists. Now, as far as rudiments go, I think that every one of you beginners out there should take from a private teacher and work on rudiments. And first of all, I'd like to just mention some of these rudiments, like the double stroke roll. A double stroke roll is just right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. And then a single stroke roll, right, left, right, left. Then the flam, which is whenever you're playing a flam, the stick that you call the right flam, for instance, that stick would be high. So a right flam would be the right stick high, the left stick about 1 inch off the drum. The left stick would hit first. And I had a rudimental teacher when I was in grade school that would say, prepare. And when he'd say prepare, that would mean the left stick should be 1 inch off the drum, and then the right stick up, prepare, flam. And then he'd want your right stick to be right in position for the left flam. Again, the left hand being high. So he'd say, prepare, flam, prepare, flam. And when I was in about 5th grade or so, I remember just really concentrating on trying to keep that right stick about 1 inch off the drum and alternating flams. And later on, when you get into playing flams, a lot of the flams I play are maybe all left flams, you know. And it's not so much of a real, thought about rudimental thing. But I feel as though rudiments are very, very important. Paradiddles. Now, there's a rudiment that's just a combination of singles and a double stroke roll. Right, left, and then right, right, left, right, left, left. And there are other rudiments, there's rudiments and rudiments and rudiments. What do they say? The National Association of Rudimental Drummers, 26 essential rudiments or whatever. I feel as though you should learn all these rudiments and get them all under your control so that you can play them fluidly. Drum corps playing is something that's a good thing to get into too. In college at North Texas State, I was in the drum corps, and I got to play in a drum corps for about 4 years while I was at school and just work on all the correct, we'd stand in a line, and everything would be, you could look down the line and all the snare drums would be right in line. And I remember, again, in grade school and junior high going to competitions with snare drum where we would prepare solos, and then we'd call them Solo and Ensemble Festival, and there'd be a judge out there that would be looking at every stick move that you made, and he'd say, well, on the 3rd bar, you could make the rough a little tighter, On the 2nd bar, the 5-stroke roll, 2-4-5, 2-4-5. Could be, a little bit more in time or whatever, and they would analyze your playing like that, and it really helped. And there are also cool things that you can get into. I remember doing a solo called Tornado by Mitch Markovich, and it got into backsticking. And this is a really great way to work on even warming up. Warming up backstage, I often just take a practice pad and work on, long rolls. And trying to play a single stroke roll and a double stroke roll together. This is kind of a drum corps exercise. And as simple as it sounds, just taking and getting your feet going, getting the blood flowing in your feet and doing, 16th note ideas. Paradiddles, flamadiddles, flamadiddle, flamadiddle, flamadiddle. All sorts of rudiments, and warming up this way on just a pad. And so anyway, this solo that I was mentioning, Tornado, it had a lot of backsticking exercises, and this is sort of something that's fun to do. A backsticking pattern would be with say, a right flam, playing traditional grip, where the fulcrum is in between the thumb and the first finger in that web there. You would play a flam with the backstick, and then a left flam would be crossing over. So you'd alternate your flams like this. And I can't remember the solo exactly, but I remember part of it had a backsticking exercise that went something like. and working on things like that, and just ideas that we used to do in core and passing the sticks down and all that sort of thing. So these are all ideas to work on, but again, I feel you should get with a private instructor and really work on rudiments and reading also, rudimental reading and chart reading. The next thing I'd like to do is just, I'm sort of a fan of, ideas that can flow around the set. And a lot of people say, well, I don't really think in terms of licks, but to me that's one thing I'm real big on, is just trying to cop licks, from different drummers or from albums or tapes or whatever. And so I'd like to just do that, show a few licks, show a few ideas, patterns that I play, sticking patterns that I play. And like I said before, it's not going to ever come out sounding, like the person that you cop it from. These people that I cop it from, I still put a little bit of, my style in there, and you'll do the same. If you learn a lick on this video, hopefully you'll put it in your own style, and it'll come out, being your own pattern or whatever. One of the ideas I'd like to do first here would be sort of it'd be like a paradiddle diddle, and that would sound like this. Go over the bar line. What you do is you take, put it on the upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those same ideas I did there, but starting it on the upbeat. 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, another idea that you might try would just be taking that double bass pattern, right, right, left, and applying that around the drum set. Doodle-bop, doodle-boom, doodle-boom, doodle-boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can put that into an idea like this. And that sort of idea will work really well for rock beats too. You could play that same right, right, left pattern and use it in rock beats. 1, 2, 1. Now a lick that I do, a pattern that I do that's using the floor tom in both of the bass drums is one where the floor tom is playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the bass drums are playing 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1 triplet and triplet, 2 triplet and triplet, right and left, and real slow. That's 3, 4. And what I do is I add the left hand in on to create sort of a halftime snare backbeat feel. And that'll sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I think reading is a really important part of playing. The more that you can understand about reading charts and also reading transcriptions, the more you'll have great, vast amount of knowledge at your fingertips just by being able to look in great drum magazines and books and be able to read just like you read the written language. and understand how to play ideas and figure them out, but also to get through tunes easier. You can write out little cheat sheets and put them on your drum and just have the beginning of a tune. You can write out the form of a song. You can write out where different kicks are, what the beats, start off with and develop into, in different verse, bridge, chorus sections. And you can write out your stops and starts. You can have a whole set worth of music and just put them on little file cards and put them right on your drum. And this will also help for any kind of auditions that you're doing. If you can, say you've got to learn 20 tunes for an audition, or maybe even 10 tunes for an audition, you can chart them all out and read that way and be able to help your playing and help, get the whole ball rolling as far as not having to worry about memorizing 20 tunes. This way you'll have it down and you'll be able to read it. The next thing I'd like to talk about is just a little bit, cover a little bit about Latin playing. In Latin playing, one of my favorite styles of playing Latin music is songo, which is more of a Cuban style of playing. And in this style, as in a lot of Latin styles, the clave is real important. Now, a clave could either be a 2-3 clave or it could be a 3-2 clave. A 2-3 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And a 3-2 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now, if you take and do more of a Cuban clave, that would sound more like rest 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and you'd kind of delay that 3. So that would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Or if you did a 3-2 clave, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now the bass drum would follow what the bass player's playing. Say the bass player's playing a groove like gong 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 gong, 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and. Well, that bass drum, your bass drum should follow along with what the bass player is doing. So let me just play an example, playing quarter notes on the cowbell and playing that bass drum along with the bass player. And that'll sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. As far as what the left hand might do in a songo type groove would be ghost notes and fill in, play patterns that would fill in around that would sound, sort of the style of you were emulating like a conga player. You can open up your hi-hat. You can do a lot of different ideas and still have that songo feel to it. So I'll demonstrate a couple of those type of grooves. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, now if you take the clave and you try to play the clave on the snare drum, say you play a 2-3 clave, and then play sort of a cascara pattern with the right hand, that would be a pattern that would maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Or something, a cascara pattern, something like that, and then play with the left hand, say a 2-3 clave. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And while you're doing that, keep the bass drum in that. So I'll put all three of those together, and you'll get an idea what that sounds like. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, The next thing I'd like to just talk about would be doing a few solo ideas in the Latin style. And one thing that's a real cool idea is playing upbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, ga 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 ga, gong 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 gong, blah blah. And while you're doing this, you could keep a bass drum pattern going. Doom, goom, 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 goom. You can also get into playing patterns that are sort of in between eighth note and 2/16, da 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 da, and a triplet pattern, da 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 da. You'd be laying back, pulling back just a little bit on the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4, so it would have a feel of ga 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 ga. And just to show you a couple of different Latin solo ideas, I'll use those two and combine them together in sort of a little solo idea, just a real quick thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. This next example I'd like to play is an example that's sort of a songo Latin idea, and it starts off with a clave, that's the 2/3 clave. So I'd like to have us go along and clap through this clave just one time, maybe halfway through the tune, and we'll get a feeling of how it goes. The clave rhythm is rest, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. So we'll clap along with that first, and we'll just get an idea of how that goes. One, two, ready, and 1, 2, 1. So that'll give you an idea how the 2/3 clave will work. Now I'm going to go ahead and play off that same demonstration, and I'll play drum set with it. You'll get an idea how that'll work. Okay, the next thing I'd like to get into just a little bit is, again, this is a topic that you could talk about for hours, but just a couple ideas on playing swing. This style of music really depends on the ride cymbal, and the ride has to be what really swings the whole band. And I like to really try to think about my ride cymbal as being the most important voice and the voice that I almost stare at all the time in order to get the feeling right. I try to go for a feel that has the last note of the triplet accented, like 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, doom gago, doom gago, doom gago. And a lot of people, students, might ask, what would your snare drum or bass drum or hi-hat do? Would it just, I mean, you can work on all kinds of great independence exercises and things, but as far as really improvising when you're playing swing, I think it's most important to try to think about what your ride cymbal is doing. If your ride cymbal goes, ding, 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 bop, that just sort of tells me, that bop sort of tells me it would sound good to put an accent either with the kick or snare in there. Most of the time, if you're just starting off, it's a good idea to try to work on just playing 2 and 4 with the hi-hat. But later, as you work on exercises with the teacher or just out of books, you can get little independence ideas. This is an idea of an independence idea. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That doesn't really sound like a groove that you'd be playing with a band. That sounds like an independence idea. And you're not going to stay in the gig real long if you're playing ideas that sound like that. So try to think off the ride cymbal and just make it sound real musical. Like I said before, my favorite way is just kind of accenting on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just sort of let the bass drum and snare flow along with those accents. Again, using sort of a looser approach, and maybe the rough, or just pressing the left hand into the snare. That's a good idea for that sort of style. But I'll just play a little bit, give you an idea, what it would sound like playing in that swing style. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. When you start playing at faster tempos, you no longer really think about triplets. You almost make those triplets sound as if they're almost flattened out eighth notes. A line at a faster tempo, 1, 2, wouldn't sound like this. Real triplety like that. It would sound like more of a flat It's a type of sound. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so try to flatten out that ride cymbal and make it sound more like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So those are just a few ideas of some things to work on. Again, it would take forever to get into all different sorts of playing swing, but I think it's important to try to sing along, you know, and when you're playing, especially if you can get the feel of, you know, like I was singing before, like doo ba doo da da doo doo ba doo da doo da. Sing what the band's playing, or sing, or listen really carefully to how the soloist is singing or playing rather the feel of the song, or how they're swinging it, and your ride cymbal, you know, can either dictate or follow in that sort of a style. It's really important to listen and have ears, you know, bigger than elephants, man, so you can really get in there and, you know, pay attention to what the rest of the band's doing and really try to play dynamically too. Playing with dynamics are so important in all styles of music, not just in jazz, but in playing rock and roll and playing Latin and all sorts of things. You should really work on, you know, when you play a verse, you know, even if it's just a difference between playing with a closed hi-hat or opening it up a little bit or going to the cymbal or whatever. Those are little dynamic differences that you can get into. The next topic I'd like to cover is playing with brushes. Brushes can be used in so many styles of music, in jazz, in rock and roll, and funk. You can use them in country western. So many different styles of music. The first style, and the style I'd like to kind of get into right now, to get into them all would take a whole other video to do on brushes, but just to get into one style of playing brushes, I'll center in on swing. And there's a million jillion types of swing patterns you can play with brushes too, and a lot of guys do figure eights, and there are so many great books out on brushes that it's, you know, the great things with arrows and all sorts of, you know, this with your left hand, do this with your right hand, this crossover thing. What I did is sort of simply diagrammed out one of the strokes that I use a lot, and that's to play with a clockwise type of a swishing motion with the left brush, and with the right brush be playing more the quarter note feel. So what I wrote in here was that 1 would start here, 2 would be over here, 2, and then come back, back to 3, 4. So you get kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then in the square, I wrote out 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So the right hand would be more of a. So just simply to put them both together, a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can make those circles smaller if you want, or you can make them real wide. That would be a smaller, tighter circle. And this will work for up tempos too. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now up here, I wrote a couple of subdivisions with the left hand. You could go 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, and get those little skates on the rough part of the drum head. So you got. Put that together with the right hand, you've got 1, 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplet, 1, 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplet. And it'll have a little bit more of a rolling triplet feel to it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can use that left hand to fill in those. that last triplet of the 3-note group. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So, one, two, three, four. Now you can use brushes for muffling too. For instance, for a Latin type thing, you can get sort of a muted sound by using the left brush to mute for the right hand, or vice versa. Or you can just get sort of a slap, and you can even roll across the drum head and get that sort of sound. And there's just endless possibilities of creative things you can do with brushes. Those kind of little things. And so anyway, to give you a short little like Latin type example of what you could do. 1, 2, 1. Whenever I'm playing double bass and I'm playing a long extended 16th note pattern, I usually lead with my left foot, because my hi-hat for so long has played on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the left foot's already leading 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it seemed easy to me to just go ahead and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E since my left foot's done that for so long. A lot of guys lead with their right foot for long extended periods, and either way will work. I try to lead with my right now just because it's something I don't normally do, just in practicing. And whenever I do short little spurts, like I lead with my right foot, because my right foot's already playing boom, 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 ba, boom, 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 ba, booga, booga, ba, right, left, ba. So I lead with my right foot for the shorter double bass examples, and that's pretty much a standard way that I do that. This next example is sort of an up-tempo tune, and I'll play through it and use little examples of playing short double bass drum pieces within that. Okay, the next thing I'd like to do is use this drum machine and show you how to do a few simple displacement ideas. So I'm going to put these headphones on. This first idea I'd like to play with the drum machine is a displacement idea that's going to use 16th note variations, shifting around on the 16th note, or possibly even creating another entirely different beat. Say you take a beat that's going doom dot doom dot doom you actually put a whole other beat in a displaced tempo so that it sounds like time against time. And this is what that would sound like. So I started off with an idea that shifted around the 16th notes, and then I started playing different beats, using triplet variations in the same way I was using 16th notes. Triplet, 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 and making the beat sound like it's shifting around using offbeat 16ths, offbeat 8th notes, offbeat triplets. And one idea that I did, which was using the hi-hat, snare, and bass drum in a pattern like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what that did was it threw it into a whole other like a halftime feel. There's so many different ways of taking it, to a displaced, next beat and juxtaposing the two beats on top of each other. It's a neat thing to fool around with. And what I'll do now is I'll play sort of a shuffle beat, and I'll displace upbeat triplets. I'll take a shuffle, boom, ba, boom, ba, and I'll make that the new beat. So that would sound like this. So there are a lot of different ways to try displacing time and putting different feels over other feels. I think that's a neat thing to get into. This next idea I'd like to play has a lot to do with doing little displacement ideas while we play a regular groove. So I'm going to play the groove and kind of go in and out of playing around the beat and just show you some examples of that, but generally just playing with sort of a halftime feel. Okay. The next thing I'd like to talk about is a really important part of playing and overall just working in the music business. And that's that probably only 50% of the whole ball game anyway is playing. Another 50% of it has to be just the right mental attitude and keeping in good physical condition and just keeping a real good, clear state of mind and dealing with other people. Because no one wants to play, in a group with someone that's got a bad attitude or someone that's not really enjoying what they're doing. And I feel that no matter what kind of job you're doing, whether you're playing in a top 40 band or whether you're playing in a wedding band or you're out just working in a garage group, playing in your own band, or whether you're out playing on the road, you have to really make sure to keep a real positive attitude when you're playing so that you can work well with other people and gel with other people and things like that. I think that's a really important thing. And I also feel, along with that, that you've got to try to, if you're just starting off in the music business, try to really be aggressive and be your own best business agent, because it is the music business. And when you're out there and you're first starting out, be as professional as you can. Get little business cards printed up, or maybe even do something with a demo tape. And another thing I'd like to say, especially to kids out there, when you're playing, it's such a physical thing. Playing is such a physical, drums, such a physical instrument, that you've got to work on endurance, and a great way to do that is just, making sure that you, for all players, that you keep in good physical condition, that you eat right, and that you exercise. And I've been really getting into aerobic stuff like riding the life cycle bike. I think that really helps for endurance, and especially for kids, I think it's really important. I don't want to tell anyone else what to do, but I feel it's real important to just stay away from drugs, no matter what any other kids at school tell you or whatever. I don't do drugs, and I think it's really something that you don't need. And like I said, I don't want to tell anyone else how to live their lives, but these are just a few points that I feel will help you along the way, because you've got to try to just, whether it's eating right or working out or whatever, you have to try to keep the body and mind that God gave you in the best possible condition you can, so you can think clearly and deal with people in the best manner that you can. I hope you've enjoyed yourself today. I've really enjoyed making this tape for you.